What if the biggest mistake you're making in retirement has nothing to do with money, but it has to do with how you're spending your life? Chasing more stuff, more status, and more distractions. It's robbing you of your joy, your happiness, and connection. In this video, I'm going to show you how to escape the drift and start living before time runs out. When my dad retired, first thing he did was he took his 401k and he took his pension he accumulated and he opened up a Merrill Lynch account with a family friend. And I remember he was so proud of the amount of money he'd saved during his 35-year career. He had an old school pension, he was able to cash that out, 401k built up nicely, but now he was out on his own and he had this nest egg. The sad thing is, my dad, who was 65 at the time, focused on this nest egg like it was the only thing in his life. Now, sure, he played golf and he was retired traditionally and, took time away from work. He enjoyed the freedom, he enjoyed his golf and his friends and all of that. But every day, at least once a day, if not most of the day, he focused on his money. First thing in the morning, he'd turn on the news, check the stock market. He'd call a stockbroker. How'd we do yesterday? He had a yellow pad of paper. And I remember seeing this. He had the total amount that he had, and he had the days of the month. So April 1st, April 2nd, April 3rd. And he put the amount in there. And then he'd put the amount for the next day and the next day. And he spent, well, he was only alive for 15 years. So he spent those 15 years looking at that amount of money every single day. He would watch CNBC, I think it was, or one of the stock TV shows, and he would call a stockbroker 2 or 3 times a day to ask him, should they move money, should they sell anything, should they buy anything. He was obsessed with it. He was overly concerned about it, and he didn't want to spend any of it, so he became a miser. And believe me, he wasn't a multimillionaire, but he had enough to live a comfortable life with my mom, but he didn't ever want to touch it. He was so worried about what would happen. So he lost track of everything else in his life. It got so bad one year, the stockbroker called me up and said, hey, can you do me a favor with your dad? Sure, what can I do? He calls me 3, 4, 5 times a day. I don't think you can stop him, but I'd mentioned to him maybe he could get a laptop. You could show him how to log into the Merrill Lynch account, and then he could look at the money all day long and at the end of the day. So I got my dad a laptop for Christmas one year. And I showed him all of the things he could do with it. He could do email, he could find college friends, he could get on Facebook and all of that. But all he did was hang around the Merrill Lynch account to watch his money. It was really sad for me to watch that. And I don't want that. I didn't want it for him. I don't want it for us. And I certainly don't want it for you. So let's talk about why people get this wrong. Maybe men get it more wrong than women. Jody has this saying that this is the first generation of women retiring with their own money, and it's true. But historically, it's been the men. My dad's generation, the men worked, they earned the money, they saved it, and they had it. So why did they get it wrong? Well, the first thing they do to get it wrong is people feel like retirement is now the time to rest. And my dad did that. He was all about rest. Golf, drinks with his buddies at lunch, take a nap, wake up, take my mom to dinner. It's all about rest and his money. The second thing that people lose track of or why they get it wrong is they think that money drives all of their decisions. My dad's obsession with his money allowed him to make no decisions. He really couldn't decide, do I get a new car? Do I not get a new car? Do I go on this vacation with my wife? And, I would tell him all the time, Dad, you have plenty of money, you've got to do it. But again, he was obsessed with it, so he didn't want to spend it. And the third reason that people get this wrong is that they feel like their identity is tied to that bank account, or at least my dad did. He knew how much money he had. He didn't want it to go down. He didn't want to see it diminish and feel like he would die with no money. So he didn't spend it. So here's a new perspective. Number one, shift from accumulation to alignment. And what do I mean by that is, well, you've spent your whole life accumulating the money. Now it's time to decumulate, and it's okay. If you have a financial planner, they can help you figure out how much you can spend each year and how long it'll last, and don't obsess over that, and don't obsess over the market. That's why you have a financial planner. But you want to focus on now living your, we don't call it retirement anymore, we call it your discovery phase. Align with what's important to you in this phase of life, and stop obsessing about your money. The other thing is, your most valuable asset in retirement is not your money, it's your time. You now are time affluent, and you've got to find ways to use that time to the best of your ability so that you can have joy and presence and connect with family and friends and your kids. So that's the second change I want you to make, thinking about this phase of life. And the third one is, let's start thinking about reframing success, not around all the money you've accumulated, but around this new stage of life. We call it the discovery phase. Use this time to really focus on learning and growing and connecting and creating something new, starting a new hobby, starting a habit, starting a business, mentoring, coaching, whatever it might be. Reframe this phase of life to have that as your focus, and you'll feel a lot better. So what are some things that you can do starting today? Well, chasing money will never satisfy your soul. Retirement's your chance to stop measuring life in dollars and measure it in meaning. So while money fixes a lot of problems and money is important, having meaning and purpose is really more important. Focusing on fulfillment, how you can contribute to society, how you can contribute to your community, how you can contribute to your children and your friends and your neighbors. That is really an important part of the discovery phase, not chasing money. Second thing is, I talked earlier about this whole idea of time as your most valuable asset, so use it wisely. When you get up in the morning, use that early morning time to do something, some good habits, whether it's exercise or journal or call a friend or make a list of the things that you want to do today that really have meaning to you. But don't squander your time. My dad didn't squander his money, he didn't spend it. But I think he squandered his time. He really did not find anything new, and that led to retirement drift for him. And he just bumbled through life day after day, saying that he was busy and he was happy and all that, but it was really hidden behind boredom and loneliness. And that's not really a good way to go through this phase of life. Hey, do me a favor, in the comments below, I'd love for you to write down, what is your biggest fear that you have right now in retirement? Your non-money fear, non-financial fear. I want to hear about that. I know everyone says they're worried about money, but I want to hear what really is keeping you up at night that has nothing to do with money. I read all of your questions and comments, so please leave a comment below. Here's another thing that you can start to do to change this. Redefine success for this season of life. Think about writing a definition or a description of what it is that's important to you in this life. I spend a lot of time talking about my physical wellness, and I want to be physically independent at the age of 90. That really drives a lot of decisions that I make in this life. It's got nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with making sure I go to the gym, making sure I walk, making sure I eat healthy, making sure I meditate. That's really important to me in this phase of life. So I've made that my success factor. So exercise, nutrition, health, companionship, all getting along with Jody, really investing in our relationship, investing in our kids' relationship. That's, to me, what is success in retirement, not having enough money. I also want you to think about being aware of the warning signs of retirement drift. If you've been following us for a while, you know we just did a webinar 2 days ago, actually. We talked about and unveiled our whole idea behind retirement drift and the discovery years. And retirement drift is that silent, uneasy feeling of thinking, isn't there more? And it's masked by people saying, Sure, I'm busy all day long. I'm happy, I'm grateful, I'm doing okay. But really, there's loneliness, there's loss of identity, there's trying to figure out what to do with the 40 plus hours of free time that came that way. So we've named that retirement drift. And I want you to start thinking about being aware if that's going on, and watch more of our videos about retirement drift, because I think it'll really help you get out of this mode of maybe feeling lost and lonely in the discovery years. Number 5, I want you to think a little bit about creating a vision for your retirement. I know it sounds weird, like, well, I'm just going to relax and take it easy and see what comes along my way. Well, that's okay for a week, a month, maybe even a year. But as you start to get older, and as time starts to pass, and as you start to get into poor habits, you start to age a lot quicker. And there's a lot said about having some really good, healthy habits, especially around nutrition and exercise, that gives you the energy and the drive and the wisdom to want to do more. So create a vision for yourself. And just listen, I'm a big journaler, talk about it a lot. Just go to Staples or get on Amazon and order a book, and just every morning write some ideas on what you want to do in this phase of life. And if you're not retired yet, still do that too. You hear us talk a lot on this channel about habits. And maybe you've got some bad habits that you need to break yourself. We created a free download, is below, the 5 bad habits to stop while you're retired. So download that and use that as a tool to break some bad habits. It's sitting down with a cup of coffee or tea, your favorite drink, and writing some ideas. And over time, as you write every morning and go back and read what you wrote last week and the week before, you'll start to get a clear vision of what it is you want to do in this phase of life. With that vision, then you can bring in habits and routines that really support that. Speaking of habits and routines, I want you to think about if you're getting up in the morning and you turn the TV on and you have a cup of coffee and you watch TV for an hour and a half, that's not really a good first habit. So I want you to think about a couple things that you can do today. Number 1, first thing you do when you get up is don't turn the TV on, but have 12 ounces of water. It's actually better if it's room temperature, so get the glass out the night before, have it on the kitchen counter next to the coffee machine, sit and just drink that water. And sit in peace. Don't turn on the TV, don't look at your phone. That's the first thing. The second thing you really want to do, if you can, is either move for 5 minutes in your house, do some push-ups, some sit-ups, go out the front door and walk for 10 minutes. That would really make a huge difference in your life. So there's 2 habits. And then your reward would be to come in and have your coffee and watch TV. And as over time, as you get used to doing the water and the exercise, then you bring another habit in there. It's called habit stacking. So start to bring 1 habit in, then 2, then 3, and figure out what your reward is. I just was at the gym this morning, and the guy was there for his first time with his daughter, and he came to the 5 a.m. class. And I said, oh gosh, are you gonna come to the 5 a.m.? Oh, no. I get up in the morning and I have my coffee, I watch TV, have some breakfast. I'll probably come to the 9 a.m. class. I told him I used to do the same thing. But the problem with that is, after my coffee and after watching TV for a while, I always came up with a good excuse on why not to go to the gym. So he thought about it, said, that's actually a pretty good idea, because that's my problem now. I haven't been to the gym yet. I've wanted to go to the gym. The only reason I came was because of my daughter, so I might try that tomorrow. So another thing I want you to do is start to think about anchoring your day with some intentions that you have to help build this most successful age of your life. So when I mean that, what are some things that are important to you? So for me, like I said, I want to be physically independent at the age of 90. That's core to who I am. So throughout the day, besides going to the gym in the morning, I'll work for 50 minutes and then I'll walk for 10. I'll make sure I walk the dog. When I make a phone call, instead of sitting in a chair, I'll put in my earbuds and I will go for a walk and talk to my kids or whoever it might be. That really makes a difference in your day when you start to anchor all of these components of your vision. So start doing that today. So as you go through your day, you want to audit it. How did I do today? Did I accomplish everything I wanted to do? Make sure you're designing a morning routine that's really going to satisfy your needs. Build some rituals. My morning routine is now a ritual. It's not really a routine, and that's why it's so powerful and so strong. I get up at 4:30, and I'm not saying you have to do that, but I get up, I drink my water, I journal, I read scripture, I go to the gym, I come back, I have coffee with Jody for 30 minutes, she leaves, and then I shower and do some work. That's my morning ritual. And when you can get a ritual like that and lock that in first thing in the morning, you will crush the rest of your days. If you've enjoyed this video, you're gonna love this one too. Everything would be great till it wasn't. What happened to him was something I call retirement drift. Because he hadn't planned properly for retirement, he lost his way. His drinking fogged him a little bit. He never was able to find a new identity, and he really didn't know what to do with the 40+ hours of free time that came his way. That's what I call retirement drift.